Hey guys, this is Jay coming to you from 21st Century Reviews, bringing you another edition of Star Trek, the official Starships collection by Eaglemoss, issue number 9, the USS Defiant, registration number NX74205. A Defiant-class starship commissioned in the early 2370s to respond to the Dominion threat after being decommissioned in the test phase as a counterbalance to the Borg threat. Captained by Commander Benjamin Sisko. First seen in the episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, The Search Part 1. Other notable appearances by this ship were most definitely in Star Trek First Contact when it was commanded by Lieutenant Commander Worf for the film. The ship was destroyed in the late 2370s during the Dominion War and was then later recommissioned as a replacement of the USS Sao Paulo, and then they allowed the ship to be renamed USS Defiant per Admiral Bill Ross's suggestion from Captain Benjamin Sisko. Now, without being too much of a fanboy, this, of course, is one of my personal favorite starships. I love this ship. Everything about it I absolutely adored, being that, it's classified as an escort vessel, and, to quote Captain Sisko, but unofficially, the Defiant was a warship. First Federation warship ever commissioned. Its sole purpose was to function as an escort vessel, to function as basically I guess the best way to describe it would be like a destroyer escort in modern Navy terms. It's small, it packs a powerful punch. There was a whole lot of things that were really cool about this ship in and of itself. The fact that it housed Type 10 pulse phasers, which we'd never seen before. The fact that it employed what was called quantum torpedoes instead of the standard photon torpedoes. And those were just cool by themselves because they flew through space faster. They glowed a bright white bluish color instead of the standard red that you were normally used to seeing. And when they hit something, it was impressive, to say the least. And then ultimately, its humongous distinctive feature that was different from others was the fact that it did employ a Romulan cloaking device. So, lots of cool things about this ship from the stance of looking at it from a fan's perspective. Now, I will say that this ship, being the model, has a lot of really good things about it. I really do like this model. I will say, unfortunately, I have seen better versions of the model, mostly just because whenever the ship came out, I read pretty much every technical specification you could read on this thing, and that was back in the days before the internet was around, so you really couldn't even use that as a resource. But to be fair, like I said, size-wise, it's awesome because, it gives you a real good glimpse of all the details of it. If you were to compare it to, say, like one of the Micro Machine models, it doesn't compare because the Micro Machine didn't have the ability to put a lot of the detail you'd want on it. This one does. It's comparable in size to, say, the Hallmark USS Defiant ornament. It's almost exactly the same size as that. But to some extent, I actually like the ornament a little bit better because the detail, weirdly enough, is actually better on it. But, without further ado, our pros and cons list, and so on with our final grading. The pros of this model. In all fairness, the design, it's about 98% spot on. There's really no major flaws to the design of this ship. The Aztecing on the surface of it and everything is getting a mid-grade from me of a 3 out of 5, mostly because the deflector housing, which is on the front of the ship, right there, is got good Aztecing on it. Not great, but good. The engine housings right here and here have amazing Aztecing on them, really good groove structure, really good levels of indentation and expansion, whereas the main hull around the main sections is actually very much lacking. It's all smoothed out. You can tell where it's supposed to be, but it's not actually there. To be fair, that's really where my pros list is and everything. I don't really have a lot of pros other than just basically being a fanboy about things, because, to be fair, this is not a bad model. at all. But there's some things about it that bug me. So, to the cons. On the engine section of the rear part of the hull, if you pull it in closer, you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. Everything, if the lighting was just a hair better, you can kind of see on the starboard nacelle housing there. They, for a good example, I guess I could have added it as a pro. There was a really good attention to clear plastic application on the engines being fore and aft. Really good, because that's a detail that needs to be there. The ship didn't have a lot of bright lights on it to begin with because it's a stealth kind of ship, being that it's designed to attack and not be necessarily very visible, hence the cloaking device concept. But they made it a point to make sure that there was clear plastic application. On the front, they managed to put the little red discs in place, and on the back, they managed to employ the little blue ones. Great! The problem with the blue ones on the back here, and on this side, is that they literally, they placed them on the interior about 1/8 of an inch into the model. They're actually supposed to be flush with the aft section of the engine housing. You can physically see the gap right in there. There's not supposed to be a gap there. It's supposed to be smooth, and that's where you'd see it, which, to be honest, on this one would have made it look better. Now, on the front section, as you can see, they got it right. It's housed a little bit in, but you can see them. They're nice and bright. The light catches them. It's perfect. So, really no complaints on that front. Now, they seem to have forgotten to put the little blue disc in the front of the nose on the deflector, but the deflector, to me, that's one of its biggest cons, actually. The reason for this comment is basically because the nose of this ship is not only the main deflector, and when I say nose, I am referring to this section right here. It's not only a main deflector, it's actually also the docking port for the ship. When this ship is docked, this nose is supposed to kind of flip up and become smooth and flush with the hull. So when it docks at the pylon on Deep Space Nine, it basically just kind of slides into place and locks them down. Then there's this little, docking latch system on the top that's it's kind of has a groove on it. If you look at the big Playmates model, you can actually see it, feel it, and it's basically like a groove, like something with teeth is supposed to latch onto that and hold it in place. Sounds kind of feasible. But then whenever the ship launches, this pylon, or I'm sorry, not pylon, but the deflector is supposed to drop down about a 20-degree angle and kind of face downward, because that's how the deflector field encompasses the ship. It aims downward and becomes a rotating deflector pattern. It's not like standard, normal starships where it just projects out from the front of it and encompasses the whole starship. It's actually designed to be smarter than that. So, with that being said, I mean, there are those things about it being the deflector isn't placed quite the way it's supposed to. As you can kind of tell just from looking at it, it's actually supposed to be down a little bit. When you look at this section right here, it should actually be a little bit more exposed and the nose be aimed downward a little bit more. So that's fine, everything. But I mean, it's not like it's a bad thing, because technically that could be a positioning of it. Now, I don't know that you can really see, but right next to where the stand prongs are, on both sides of this amazing starship, are two little holes. Now, when you look at those on my Hallmark model that I keep referencing, those are lights on that model. And if you look at the actual specifications, that's the aft torpedo launchers. Now, to be fair, I would be perfectly okay with that if they were to actually cap them off like the phaser emitters that are right there, or the quantum torpedo launchers that are located here and here. But they didn't. They just left these two gaping holes in the aft section of it. And that, to me, is sloppy. Because in all fairness, if you didn't want them there, all you had to do was just seal them off. Now, my thought is, perhaps when they were being constructed, those were like two little metal prongs that during the molding process, and when the ship was done being cast, they probably pulled it off of there. They just never sealed them shut. It's kind of a pet peeve, but to me it's something I notice. And when I notice those things, they become an imperfection. So, to basically narrow it down and everything, to say, the Defiant, decal-wise, spot on. There's not one decal misplaced or put in there crooked, or incorrectly placed, for that matter. All the decaling is actually perfectly put on there. Paint application, the only gripe I really have is that the blue that's on it, that's supposed to go into the gray, is a little bit too muted. To me, it should be, either the main hull should be lighter and the blue would pop, or the main hull should be just the color it is and the blue be darker. So that way, the distinguishing features to the Aztecing would pop a little bit more. But to be honest, it's not a bad paint job. It's actually perfectly fine. It's just a personal preference. So it gets a perfect mark of 5 out of 5. And then, like I said, the Aztecing, that's one of my chief gripes with it, is that they actually made it a point to pay attention to it on the engine housings, but then forgot it on the main hull. It's kind of a little bit of a grievance, but it's one I can get by, so not a huge deal. So, with that being said, I'm going to give the USS Defiant, issue number 9, a 3 out of 5. With that being said, also, we are about to approach issue number 10, the Borg Sphere, and I really, really, really want to reach out to people and get everybody kind of excited with this. You know, there's other YouTubers out there that really want to, have these skills and everything, and really, make it a huge point to create, these videos and everything. I just want to join into that community. I really do. I just want to reach out. My Facebook fan page is starting to get likes to it and everything, but my YouTube channel still isn't getting any subscribers. I need you guys. I really, really need you guys. I want to reach out to you guys and help, because, to be honest, Star Trek has been a dying art for a number of years. The JJ universe has kind of been killing it off a little bit, whereas it's been dragging in new fans. It's been kind of offing with the old and in with the new. That's fine. There's things about it that I don't care for, and we'll probably go over some of that in some of the future special edition issues, being the, the JJ Trek, ships and everything. But I'm trying to reach out and everything, and I want subscribers. I want to be able to do, like, giveaways and be able to, engage in some kind of, online chat forums and everything. But I can't do it without you guys. So please, click the like button, click the subscribe button. If you're into Star Trek, pass me along to your friends. Everybody, we're all Trek family, everything out there, and I really want to see us all, be together on this and everything. And especially with the new series getting ready to kick off, it's only going to work with our input. So let's all be a family, get out there, and show our support for Trek, and give the producers and the directors and the writers our ideas. And we do that by buying the merchandise, critiquing things, coming up with our own stances on things, and creating our own fictions. So let's do this, and let's remember that we can all be working on it.